Travis Wingetsell. I was on my way to bed when I got the idea to do a video and then remembered that the video was something I already came up with. I published it in a book called Stake Temple Center Complex Proposal with Temple and Storehouse. It's not showing the date of when I published this anymore. I'm a little concerned because it didn't pop up when I typed in Travis Wingetsell Stake Temple. And so clearly I'm being censored on Amazon now. It may be because I haven't published in a while, and that the last time I published has also been a while since I last published. So I'm getting booted down Amazon's analytical program, but I shouldn't be seeing anything but my name pop up if I type in my name. So that's disturbing. Anyway, in this little booklet that was at least 24 pages, and they're forcing me to sell it at $6, but the Kindle is still at $1. The only other problem is that delivery September 5th or 6th if you're a Prime member. So I'm not happy about that. But what I go over is what I gave to Bishop Hammond back in 2017. And so I know that this was back in 2017. It's just not giving the month that I came up with it. And he said, no, I'm not going to pass it up the chain of command. The brethren of the church know how to run the church. Yeah, that's what my video was all about, is how well they run the church during a pandemic. The Stake Temple was designed to have the stake centers become more independent from the leadership of the church. Now, if you're paranoid and are like terrified, Travis, no, you can't do that. No, the church has already done that. So I'm not doing anything radically new. When they released the handbook, that was sealing the nail in the coffin. Previously, if you want to communicate with the apostles, you have to go through your stake president, and then he'll correct you and handle it himself and not allow it to go to the brethren anyway. And so only little kids and their colorful pictures of I love President Nelson are only allowed through to the prophets now. Everything else gets diverted from the mailroom directly back to your stake president, and then he's going to deal with you. And so that's why I went through my bishop to say, hey, I got this idea, why don't we run it up the chain of command? No, you have no authority to get revelation for the church, Travis. Well, I know how this church works. I know that it requires people to give input, like women's voices that have been denied in the church. But I knew he wasn't going to do it. But I nonetheless published it after his rejection. And the way it's designed is that the stake centers now become a temple center complex. That's why I called it that way. And it becomes not just a stake district, but it becomes a temple district. The stake center becomes the temple. And so it's going to be redesigned to have a temple. Now, this was before I found out that the endowment was not made by Joseph Smith. So you have to understand it in that context. This was still when I was still thinking that the church was true, it's just people were not listening to God. Now I understand they're not listening to God because they're listening to someone else. And so the concept that I had was that it was going to be a central place for members of that stake. Utah was going to be the first test site because densely populated Mormon communities. And all genealogy work would have computer systems there, access to the church's online site, and people would be able to go do genealogy work and then do the temple ordinances for their family names that they might find while they're doing work that day there at the stake temple. And the gym would be converted into the iron rod leading up to the stage where the celestial room and the veil is for people, and there'd have to be protections to keep people from falling off, and you'd have to have a handicap ramp, and that's what the iron rod would be on a ramp for those in wheelchairs as well as people ascending to the celestial kingdom in the symbolism. But I still had believed that the endowment ceremony was originally written by Joseph Smith, and that Brigham Young just added stuff to it, and that completely wrong. And so I would do an editing of the temple ceremony today. But as you notice from the title that I gave you, it's also going to be a storehouse. Currently, Utah has the most storehouses, but they're for multiple stakes, not just a single stake. This is one of the problems that we're witnessing with the failure of the church to have inspiration from Jesus to have them prepare for this occasion, which was prophesied in the scriptures. You know, Moses confronting Pharaoh, coronavirus, which results in Pharaoh saying, leave. And the Exodus occurs. And so Nelson failed because back in 2017, was getting revelation because Monson was not. And then Nelson was not. Now I would talk directly to Mormons. Have you paid attention to your Book of Mormon? Who are the ones that the Lord calls his prophets? Is it the people in position of authority like King Noah and his priests? Or is it those who have no administration authority, but who have listened to the voice of God and obeyed, and then put their lives at risk to try to warn their church members to be good people? And so, yes, the stake center, the stakes, would also be turned into a storehouse, including a farm, with a greenhouse farm, not just farm, open farmland. You would be enclosed in a greenhouse so that you can run it year round. And that would take the field behind every stake and convert it into this greenhouse storehouse where food would be grown and then made available to the members in the ward. And you can implement the law of consecration, the economic law of consecration, not the loyalty oath, with the knife in your hand as you swear loyalty to the church rather than to God. And that would be the process, is that people who wanted to spend their lives at the temple would be allowed to do so. And they would be taken care of, because my economic system was such that it could handle that. Because you'd have not just a storehouse, but you would also have, what's it called? I got distribution center, Deseret Brook, no. It's the stores that the church has all over the place. The discount stores. Can't think of the name, because I never go. LDS Church discount stores. Bookstore. Seriously? Seriously? Come on! Not distribution center, not temple clothing, not food, not bookstores. Come on, guys. I can't believe I've forgotten the name of the stores. They're all over Utah. Anyway, and I can't believe Google is not allowing me to see it in a search engine. But what this would have done was made available to every single stake an opportunity to be fully stocked with clothing, furnishings, everything they need under the economic system that I had developed, and how it would be implemented in a stage level process, as well as every stake being a greenhouse and storehouse with it, so that they can have fresh fruits and vegetables as well as processed foods as well. Although you may not want to have processing done and then just give Mormons recipes to do their own processing with the foods, and that might be better to risk or to eliminate potential contamination of the food, or minimize the contamination of food. But now we skip ahead 3 years later, and I was going to do the video, what would Utah news be different if Herbert and Nelson did the right thing from the beginning? If they were prepared, as I had gotten ideas and published the book about from the beginning. Herbert would have counseled with Nelson to help Utah, to set the example to all the world how it's supposed to be done, using the story of Moses confronting Pharaoh and the coronavirus, where Moses said, everybody, you need to stay home. And then Herbert would say, okay, we're ditching the economy. Only the first responders are to be at their place of business. So doctors, nurses, and emergency crews at their office. Everybody else stay home until the virus passes over. And with Trump, we would have been doing this a long time, but we would have been prepared. As Nelson discloses, this stake temple proposal, rather than coming out and saying, oh, hey, here's handbook number 1, and you have to go through the stake president anyway to have him answer questions concerning doctrine, which are now in handbook 1 for you, because we're not taking any responsibility for administration anymore. And so, he would implement this proposal so that Herbert doesn't have to worry about the economy. He can shut everything down, and every stake district would be taken care of, Mormon and non-Mormon. And they could all be safe in that condition. The system would be that instead of having people go to the stake to pick up their stuff, there would be people online, and everybody would get a computer so that they can do this. That's one of the problems with school reopening, is they had to take kids back to school because otherwise they'd have to make sure that every kid received a computer system so that they can do schoolwork online. And so they didn't want to do that, so back to school you go, get the virus, strong survive. And so every family would have a computer system. They would also implement their own internet service for the state of Utah so that they could have communication with their stake temple complex center in order to get supplies ordered and then received by delivery that would be dropped off at people's doors, and then no contact at all. If you don't know, Salt Lake City's mayor put up an expanded Wi-Fi service in that region so that people don't have to financially suffer without internet service. And so it can be done. The church would disclose their finances in this process by informing the members that they're doing all these things, spending their trillions of dollars for the welfare of Zion, which is the members, and thus turn the stakes into independent units to take care of their area. And it could even be broken down with the wards, because why not use them? They're just going to be empty otherwise. And have the wards actually be the front line for the food distribution in the ward districts, and then the stakes be the backup for that. And then there would be a regional or an area, and then the state would be the main one. And the church would have already had all these built in place and food stored and stocked up. And so once the virus hit, because of course they're inspired by God, so they knew it was coming, and when it came, they would have been prepared, and Herbert would have given the order to lock down Utah, send everybody home except for the doctors and emergency crew, and we'd go from there, and we'd just ride it out, staying at home, staying safe, getting all that we need, sanitation, food, and still have internet access to communicate and find out what's going on in the world so that we can know when it's over. It'd be like a nuclear bunker, only we'd not have to go into a bunker. And everybody's needs would be taken care of throughout this whole time, which is now going on 6-7 months now. So it's February, so March, April, May, June, July, August, and we're going into September. So yeah, going on 7 months. And that was my vision back in 2017. I just got the idea, and presented it to Bishop Hammond. He said no, so I published it. And now Amazon is purposely throttling even me from finding it. I had to go to my author channel on Amazon and then scroll through all my books until this one finally came up. Unbelievable. So, yeah, wouldn't it have been nice if we had prophets who actually listened to the God they claimed to be working for? Wouldn't it be nice if we had a prophet and he didn't lie and deceive us too? Take on the Beach Boys.